Good morning, Rigo de Nijs. You are the sports director of the Norwegian sailing team, and in less than 2 weeks, the entire team is going to be in Japan and do the last preparation for the Olympic regatta. I want to discuss with you the challenges of sailing in Japan at this time with the COVID restrictions and everything, and also the final selection of the team. As we speak, Endre Funmark has not yet been selected by Olympiatoppen, but he is on your team. So let us, for the equation, count him in, and you can speak about him. By the time this is being recorded or being broadcasted early on Saturday morning, we may know whether he's going to be on the team or not.
It's in the hands of the gods, as we say, of the Olympic gods.
Absolutely. The team is one of the biggest and probably one of the strongest teams we have sent to the Olympics for quite a long time. We can talk about the team a little bit later, but first of all, let us talk about the special challenges of COVID-19 in Japan, how that will restrict the sailors in moving and preparations, and of course the heat in Japan at this time of the year. But let's start with the COVID situation.
Well, the COVID is and has been, of course, for everybody quite a challenge. In Japan, things are seemingly more serious than we are here now. That has a lot to do with the culture, that has a lot to do with the history and stuff like that. But when finally the call came that the games continued as sort of planned, and all sorts of plans need to be instated, it became very much let's say a rush for time. All teams had made certain plans for how to run these Olympic Games. Some of them were going to stay in the Olympic Village for sailing. Some of them were going to stay in the houses. Others had apartment buildings, whatever they had planned. And that was sort of reviewed all of a sudden. And World Sailing tried to keep a level playing ground in that. And I think they sort of have succeeded in keeping the level playing ground, but have not succeeded in making everybody happy. Fortunately, we made quite some good calls a while ago by agreeing that the whole sailing team was going to be in the Olympic Village. So we were not that much hurt. We did have a little hub rented during the games for, let's say, force majeure, catastrophic boat failure and stuff like that, so that we could have that stuff sorted in the middle of the night and then still get some sleep or have it done at the house. That has now all been cancelled, except for 3 staff members. Those guys are now in a different hotel, together with the rest of the world that also had their private arrangements cancelled, which is at least about 6 or 7 nations. And they are stuck in a, let's say, more basic hotel away from the others with a really long transfer time. We can hope to sort that out with a private car or a supplied car by the Federation or by Olympiatoppen, and see how we can deal with that. So I think that we're on logistics, we're set pretty good. It will be a little bit more isolated than the Olympics already were because of the COVID. We have daily testing. It's still unclear how that daily testing will run in detail. In the beginning, it was that you had to be tested before you got into the bubble every day. And then it was like, you can be tested also when you go back to your village. And now it's like you have to get the testing sets, make sure that they are being tested all at the same time, and then bring back those sets. So it's still not completely clear. That also goes for little details like how is the transfer going? What extra equipment can you bring in? All that stuff. But we're getting there. The main thing right now for us is make sure that we get to the airport in Japan. Everybody at the same time, except for 3 scouts that are going 3 days before. And then use your time as efficient as possible during those last 10 days until the first race. And for that we are a pretty good setup. We made quite a bit of a good winter season and pre-race season, making choices that were all supporting us in those last 10 days for the games. Because officially, or initially, we planned to be already in Enoshima testing stuff in May. And that sort of didn't work. Other nations had their boats and containers already in Enoshima in May, and then it turned out that we were not allowed to go on the water. So their equipment was stuck while we still had our equipment in Barcelona where we could still test it. So yeah.
All the equipment is going to be belonging to the sailors except the ILCA classes that will be provided. So they know what they're going to sail. The 49ers, the Finn, the Nakra, everybody know their own boats. And the ILCA class, of course, will be pretty similar and will be provided on site.
Yeah. On that note, we have tested the boats from the builder for the ILCA 6 and 7 last year already. So yes, there are always differences between each boat builder's production, but the ones that we are provided, so the builder of the boats providing during the games, we have already tested these boats.
Okay, you will be leaving Norway on the 12th of July, and
the team, yes, I will be leaving on the 9th.
Okay, so you will be receiving them when they arrive, and you are leaving with the other coaches. Then I take it, so they will be also looking after the sailors when they arrive. Exactly. That is on the 12th. They'll probably arrive on the 13th, and then they'll go straight to the village, and then as soon as possible to go out and start sailing on Sagami Bay.
Yeah, the 14th is still a day where you are allowed to come to the club and work on your boat, and the ILCAs will be distributed and stuff like that. And the 15th is the first day where the whole bay is open for sailing.
Mm. Would there be a problem with the fishing boats and nets this time?
You never know, Mikkel, you never know. I mean, I can only control the stuff that I can control, and I try to do this as good as we can. I think on building stuff and getting that, we got the extra year. I mean, basically, they were already supposed to be ready last year, so I would be surprised if those things like building boats, building the harbor, if that still would not be ready. But you never know. We just haven't been there.
So then they will be just training. There's not going to be any racing, not even on an informal basis, before the Olympics starts, so then on the 25th.
Well, normally the coaches are pretty internationally connected. That's one of the criteria that I always found important for the coaches for the Norwegian sailing team, having international networks. Over the last year and half year, when all the regattas were sort of falling out, the coaches sat together and said, okay, let's organize a coaches regatta. And sometimes these coaches regatta will run better than some World Cups, just because these coaches know so much better what's going on when the fleet is off. And if the fleet is of, let's say, an Olympic level, it's sometimes better to do a coaches regatta than an official World Cup where the race committee is still testing how they put in a mark. So I'm pretty sure that during those days, some of these coaches in some classes will get together and throw out a coaches regatta for maybe 2 or 3 days.
Should the worst thing happen, that one of the Norwegian sailors catch the COVID-19, that means out of the games?
Yeah, well, let's put it like this. There have been these playbooks, the official, let's say, guidelines that the IOC and Tokyo 2020 wants to use. These has been changed now for 3 times on scenarios like that. And I guess there will be another version of it coming closer, and then you have reality. So in our position, you get a bit like, okay, I've seen so many changes. I know where they are, let's say, how they are thinking, but let's see what's happening. I mean, let's not forget all the sailors will be vaccinated going there, meaning that yes, there will be a red test, a positive test. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. But and the playbook will then say, okay, you need to do 20 minutes or 40 minutes wait until you have to do a new test and then a third test. That was one of the scenarios. I'm pretty convinced that will happen. I've been telling World Sailing that will happen. So make sure that we do not test in the morning. So that if you come to the regatta and you get a faulty test, that then your whole race preparation is sort of buggered. Better to take the extra effort of do your pre-race routine, get your racing done, and then, even though you don't want that, need to recover, then do you do the test, so that if you get a red test, you can go through that procedure as prescribed through the protocols. And we'll just have to wait and see how that goes, Nicole. I'm like I said, it's been so many changes. We know where they want to go. We know that we are vaccinated. So it's more a matter of, let's say, paperwork and admin than really being afraid of having COVID.
So the Norwegian team have been vaccinated once?
Oh, yeah.
But not twice?
I think most of them twice. And the ones that haven't are probably still in the loop of getting that done. Okay.
Well, enough about COVID. The heat.
Yes, please.
Let's talk about the heat. What challenge does that represent?
Well, it will be warm and humid. We have, I think all of our sailors have been visiting the climate room at Olympiatoppen quite a few times. So we've done basically our homework. Fortunately, we also have about 10-12 days before the racing starts and get acclimatized. We have pretty good protocols. We have ice fest. We have doubled up the capacity of the freezers. We have big containers in the coach boat. We get, I think, 10 liters of ice per day, or kilos of ice per day. So we are pretty set. And as Murphy laws will then go, we'll probably have no problem, because there's going to be a typhoon anyway. It's sailing, mate. You never know. Yeah. My point is that we have covered that base in a decent way, but I'm pretty sure that some other disciplines that have not the luxury of being in that climate for 10 days will have much bigger issues.
Well, at least you're in the water or near the water, so that is a cooling effect as such.
And there's all sorts of medical committees, and they are watching the wet pulp at every 20 minutes, and then they're going to adapt the starting times and the breaks between racing. And if there's more than 32, blah blah blah, then they will cancel racing or give the advice not to start. And so there's all sorts of stuff in place.
Then the most important thing, the team, the sailors, that's who we are really going to talk about. How do you think the sailors are prepared now before the departure?
I think we're in a pretty good place. The winter, or actually when we started this, let's say, final preparation somewhere back in August, September, with the Q week, which was then sort of postponed, and first international event that was sort of trying to organize regattas during it. In that period, we sort of sat down, and every team and coach made a bit of a plan. Okay, how can we use that next half year, 8 months until the event starts, from where we are there. And in some cases that meant that we really made a big effort to have them develop their equipment with some specialists and stuff like that. In another class, now we work more on strategy and decision making, etc., etc. All these big plans, I mean, changing how a team works on equipment and setup of a boat takes time to find its place in the whole sailing skill stuff. So sometimes you need to do a step back in performance in order to implement the new knowledge and the new skills that need to fit in the whole package of the sailor. And we've seen that happening in some classes that went very easy and very clear. In other classes, it was sometimes a little bit hard because of, let's say, an injury or some illness. But in the whole, I think that what we have set out to how to use 2021, that winter of 2022, of 2020 and 2021, how to use that winter, panned out to be pretty cool. We've made right choices. We analyzed the sailors and we had a good plan on how to do it. We were able to do most of what we wanted to do. We had a pretty good logistic plan by having the equipment available in Barcelona and not somewhere up in Norway or stuck in the containers in Japan or in the Suez Canal, for that matter, where we couldn't use and test the stuff that we wanted to test. So I'm pretty happy with the overall picture of all the campaigns. Now we are trying to get the focus on recover, become hungry for going to Japan and use those last times in the most efficient way, which not only means spending a lot of time on the water, but also focus on a good buildup of energy towards the first start. It's not just try to catch up what you haven't been able to do in Enoshima. If you would have been there in May, you cannot catch up on that time. But what you can do is to sort of make your whole campaign ready to explode with energy and some good choices, solid choices of performing during that regatta with the skills that you now have. So that's where we are, and that is a pretty good feeling.
There's no secret that there has been some health issues with a couple of the teams, with Herman, who's had some breathing problems, and with the Nakra, where there has been some injuries after an accident. Yeah. How do they stand at the moment?
I'm happy to tell that both of them are let's say, I would say almost back on 90% of their former shape of where they could be. Let's put it like that. Meaning that Herman has had a long period of finding out what exactly is the problem and how to gain control over it, or regain control over it. And he's been to quite a lot of doctors. I mean, the boy has basically been turned inside out. And then at the end, we found that the biggest issue is breathing in, where normally most of the problems are with breathing out. And he has been sort of now on a good track of controlling that issue when he has the right posture and when he keeps it in the right mental state to keep on going and to control heart rate and breathing issues and stuff like that. So I'm quite happy that with Anton and him working so hard, also with the help of quite a few medical specialists, also from Olympiatoppen, that he's now in the place where he needs to be. And he's not there 100%, but he is definitely in a much better place than he was half a year ago.
Okay. And Martine, her leg, is that getting all right?
Yeah, Martine had a pretty severe cut. Yesterday, she was medically tested before the games, and they found out that her hamstring on that leg was stronger than ever, and especially stronger on the front side. That was only, let's say, 20% less strong than before, or than the right leg, which is a pretty good recovery since that time. We've done also quite a bit of work on the mental and emotional part of getting over an incident like that. And so we had to set back on the things we wanted to train during the months of May and June, but with quite a bit of single boat training, like one coach and one boat. We've been able to get Martine more and more into a situation where she's happy on the boat. She's doing all the job that's needed without having too many issues with remembering the incident. And that's also done with the help of Olympia Toppen specialists.
Okay. Then finally, how about the sailors? What can we expect?
What can we expect? I hope from fireworks, Mikkel. The Olympic Games is a weird event in itself, and now with the COVID having, let's say, seriously impacted the sailing regattas before the games actually take place, it turns out that it's even harder to say what's going to happen during the games. But we also know that the big nations, the big favorites, are in every games I've been so far, always have a tendency of overdoing things and explode in some sort of way. And that's basically the main approach that we have. We just try to sail the best that we have ever done and control the things that we can control, which is hike hard, look outside of the boat, play the games, and just get that boat going where it needs to go. Everybody knows where it needs to go. And then if we can do what we know we can do, we can then look at the others and see them make mistakes. And if we are able to do that successfully, and not let us get distracted, which we are very hard to make that happen, I think we can get within the goals that we have set ourselves, and these are pretty high. So that is 1 medal and 2 top 5s. We've done that in 2019, even better. So I still believe that we can sort of try to get into that goal.
Do you dare to say who is going to be the medal winner?
Nope.
But it's no secret that the 49er FX have been training well and have been doing well in regattas quite recently. Top 3 with almost all the Olympic competition present, and that the lasers have been doing reasonably well, I should say. The Finn maybe not quite as well as we had hoped, but I understand from the coach that they know what is wrong and what they can improve. And then of course we have the Nacra, which has been sort of at a late bloomer and sort of around qualifying position for a long time, but not very much higher than that. And then finally we have the possibility of windsurfing board for men.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't forget that 2 things. Anders is the only one who is doing his second games. Other than that, the whole team are rookies. We also have a statistical truth, for whatever that is, that only 2% of the medal winners of the games since Weymouth, since the London Games, only 2% of those medal winners in those 10 disciplines, which is 30 people, only 2% of those 30 people did that on their first campaign. So my point is, if we sail how we know we can sail, and put in a personal best, anything can happen, because the rest of the world we cannot control will make mistakes. So I can see a medal for all of them, but I also can see a meltdown for all of them. So that's the Olympic Games. That's how hard this sport is.
But let us conclude. We will speak more during the games, I hope, and maybe even before the games again.
I'm happy to do that, mate.
Let us conclude at this point that we do have a strong team. With good luck, we will have, as you say, a medal and two within the top 5. It's not an unrealistic expectation, I don't think. And we will just see what happens. As you were saying, the Olympic regatta is something very special, and very few succeed in their first efforts.
Yeah.
But we do have some pretty good sailors. On that famous note, I will say thank you for your time, and we will speak again before and during the Olympics.
Thank you very much for your input, and I'm happy to answer anything you want getting closer or during the games, mate.
Thank you.